Jake Paul just faced a devastating knockout by none other than the legendary Mike Tyson, and it's got the entire fight world buzzing. Now, when you think of Mike Tyson, knockouts are almost expected. The man is known for his monstrous power, and he's made a career out of sending opponents to the canvas. But this one, well, this wasn't just your typical knockout. The way Tyson made the YouTuber turned boxer kiss the canvas was shocking. The two fighters met in the ring for what was supposed to be a random sparring session ahead of their scheduled fight on November 15, 2024. But Tyson, being Tyson, wasn't in there to play games. Jake didn't just get knocked down, he got completely folded. Knockouts during sparring usually don't become major headlines. Most of the time, they stay behind the closed doors of the gym. But this one? It's got the whole fight world talking, from professional boxers to pundits and even casual fans. Everyone's asking the same question: is Jake okay? The impact of the knockout was so severe that it left Jake with a broken rib. The way he collapsed after that brutal punch made everyone realize just how powerful Tyson still is, even at his age. Now, fight fans, let's break down what really went down during that sparring session. It all started last weekend, and trust me, it was nothing short of wild. Jake, being Jake, strutted into the ring with his usual swagger. You know how he is always oozing confidence, trash-talking his opponents, and acting like he's got it all figured out. He was walking around the ring, looking like he owned the place, and even had the nerve to call Tyson a sick chicken. Yes, you heard that right. Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer, actually tried to clown one of the most dangerous men in boxing history. Jake probably thought this was just another stepping stone, like the retired MMA fighters and ex-NBA players he's taken on in the past. But boy, was he in for a rude awakening. Just a few seconds into the first round, Jake was bobbing and weaving, trying to size Tyson up. For a moment, it seemed like he thought he was in control. Tyson, however, was not playing any games. Then it happened. Bang! One perfectly timed punch from Iron Mike sent Jake crashing to the canvas. In that split second, the game was over. Jake received the harshest reality check of his life. It's one thing to train, to hype yourself up, and think you're ready. It's another thing entirely to stand across the ring from Mike Tyson. In that moment, Jake's ego shattered just as hard as his body did. The entire fight world was left speechless, not just because of the knockout, but because of the sheer audacity Jake had to think he could take on a living legend like Tyson. Let's be real here. This was Jake's fault for underestimating his opponent. We're not talking about some washed-up MMA fighter or a retired basketball player here. This is Mike Tyson, the man who shaped modern-day boxing. Tyson is the guy who sent countless men into early retirement with his bone-crushing punches. Jake walked into that ring thinking he could take down a legend just because he's been training for a few years and racked up a couple of wins. Big mistake. Tyson is the definition of a beast in the ring. His raw power and killer instinct don't fade with age, and if Jake thought he could handle that, he found out the hard way that you don't underestimate a legend. For those who might have forgotten just who Mike Tyson is, let's revisit some of his greatest fights to put this into perspective. First up, Mike Tyson versus Trevor Berbick. This was the fight that put Tyson on the map as the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Berbick was supposed to be a tough, experienced fighter, but Tyson absolutely destroyed him in the second round. He delivered a brutal combination that left Berbick stumbling around the ring like he'd been hit by a freight train. Berbick couldn't even stand properly after that knockout. That fight made it clear to everyone that Tyson was not someone to mess with. And Jake, this is the kind of guy you were up against, not some influencer looking to make a name for themselves. Then there's Tyson versus Larry Holmes. Now, Holmes was a legend in his own right. He had only been knocked down once in his entire career before facing Tyson. But when he stepped into the ring with Mike, it was a different story. Tyson came at Holmes with his trademark ferocity, landing punch after punch until Holmes hit the canvas. Holmes tried to get up, but Tyson put him down again. That was the fight where the old guard of boxing realized the new king had arrived. And who can forget Tyson versus Michael Spinks? This was the bout that had everyone on edge. Spinks was undefeated, and people actually thought he had a chance to beat Tyson. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Tyson knocked Spinks out in just 91 seconds in the first round. That fight cemented Tyson's legacy as one of the most feared men in the sport. Now compare that to Jake, a YouTuber who picked up boxing gloves overnight. Sure, he's been training and has shown some improvement, but you can't outbox someone who has been destroying legends since the 1980s. After that devastating knockout, Jake was in bad shape. He had to leave the gym on a gurney. That's right, the usually brash and untouchable Jake Paul was in so much pain that he couldn't even stand. The paramedics rushed him straight to the hospital, and the scene sent shockwaves through the boxing world. Who would have thought a simple sparring session would end with Jake looking like he'd been run over by a truck? This wasn't your typical knockout. Most of the time, fighters just get up, shake it off, and move on. But not this time. Jake was in agony, and it was clear Tyson's punch had done more than just knock him down. It had seriously messed him up. Word from the hospital is that Jake suffered a broken rib, and the doctors are saying he'll be out of action for a while. The man who was proclaiming he would take over the boxing world now has to sit on the sidelines, both physically and mentally shattered. Now, as wild as it sounds, this isn't where things end. Jake Paul has always been known for his overconfidence. He walks into every fight acting like he's invincible, constantly hyping himself up and trash-talking his opponents. And true to form, he didn't just talk trash to Tyson, he made bets. But these weren't your typical, I'll buy you dinner if I lose type of bets. No, Jake went all in and bet a serious amount of money, confidently claiming he could take Tyson down during their sparring session. Can you even fathom the level of arrogance it takes to bet against Mike Tyson? As you might have guessed, Jake lost. Not just the sparring match, but also the huge amount of money he had put on the line. His bank account took a massive hit, and now he's facing an even more brutal reality. He's got a bruised ego, a broken rib, and an empty wallet. But here's the kicker: Jake is refusing to pay up. That's right. He's currently embroiled in lawsuits because he's trying to back out of the bets. Instead of owning up to his loss, he's making excuses, claiming that it was just sparring and not a real fight. The problem is, the bet was specifically about the sparring session. Tyson didn't step into that ring for an exhibition. He was there to show Jake exactly what he was up against. And Jake lost, fair and square. Now he's trying to backpedal, saying that it wasn't a real fight, like somehow that's going to erase the embarrassment. But here's the truth. Jake was running his mouth, thinking he could hang with a living legend, and now he has to face the consequences. Those consequences are not just financial. Jake's entire image is built on being the confident guy who can back up his talk in the ring. His persona, his fan base, his sponsorships, everything relies on him being that brash, fearless fighter. Now he's looking at a serious hit to his reputation. You can't bet a ton of money, lose, and then refuse to pay up. It's not a good look, and it's putting him in a difficult position. The whole incident has thrown a massive wrench into their planned fight. Jake and Tyson were supposed to meet for their much-anticipated clash on November 15, 2024 at the At&T Arena. But with Jake's broken rib and the lawsuits piling up, the fight is now in serious jeopardy. Fans were eagerly waiting for this showdown. YouTube followers, boxing purists, and even casual sports watchers were excited to see what would happen.